Welcome back to Leaders Whiteboard, session 9. In the last session, we talked about one-on-one meetings. Today, we are going to talk about who are good or ideal team players. So let's dive into it. Ideal team player. So there was a book by Patrick Lencioni. I like him very much. He wrote a lot of books, some very famous books, like 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. So he wrote this book long time back just to answer this question, like who are the ideal team players? And I think you as an engineering leader or manager need to know, because you'll be hiring people, you'll be retaining people, you'll be doing team building, moving people from one team to another. And you need to know what kind of team members you want when you're building a team. So Patrick Lencioni is a management guru. So in his book, The Ideal Team Player, how to recognize and cultivate the 3 essential virtues, he identifies 3 key virtues that make someone an ideal team player. What are those? Humble, hungry, and smart. So we'll delve a little bit deep into these today, because the words may not exactly mean what you think the first time when you hear. Yeah. Here is the book, The Ideal Team Player. I hope you can see it. Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni. It's one of my favorite books and collections in my library. Okay, so 3 virtues: humble, hungry, and smart. So what Patrick is trying to say is that an ideal team player, apart from their technical skill or the on-the-job skill, that whatever you have hired them for example, let's say you have hired an engineer, let's say a Java developer who can code in Java or can write database programming, let's say MySQL database, or can work on cloud like AWS, Amazon Web Services, and so on. These are their technical skill. So that's like their bread and butter, why you have hired them for the job. But none of them work in isolation. They work in a team. Like for any project or in organizations, many people work together to get one or more projects successfully done, right? So they have to be, because they have to work in a team setting, they have to be good team players. And their knowledge of Java or the database or cloud is not going to make them a good team player. That's their hard skill, bread and butter, technical skill. He's talking about the soft skill or behavioral skill that will make them a good team member or not. Those 3 virtues: humble, hungry, and smart. So let's dive deep into those those 3 one by one. First is, a team member needs to be humble. They have to show humility as they are working in a team, irrespective of their strength, their background, or anything else that you can see. I remember once I interviewed in a startup, like I was working in Salesforce. It's a very large company, Salesforce, very well known. From there, I'm going to a very small startup. So I interviewed in many different places, but I picked that company for a couple of reasons. So the hiring manager, he's a very good mentor. He's a very good leader. But at that time, I didn't know. I just went to give interview. And one of the things he told me during the interview, after the end of the interview, is that here we all work. This is a startup. You have to check your ego out in the door before getting into the office. That means actually you have to be humble. It doesn't matter how good or bad you are. Your ego has to be out of the door. Inside the compound or inside of this company, we all are humble people trying to work together. So that's one thing. And he demonstrated this humility when the interview was finished. My car was parked in the parking lot. So it's about 1 or 2 minutes walk from where the interview room is. he actually came with me until I got into the car, just to make sure I am getting out. That's, although he's in a very good leadership position there, that's how he showed humility. That's when I knew I want to work for this manager or for this leader. This is the person I want to work with. So that's just one example of humility I'm giving you. I'm sure you'll get many examples of humility from your team members and leaders. But in a nutshell, humility means focusing on the greater good instead of focusing on yourself or having an inflated ego. Humble people are willing to own up to their failures or flaws, like apologize for their mistakes, accept others' apologies, and can sincerely appreciate others' strengths or skills. It is the most important trait of being a great team player. Out of these three, humble, hungry, and smart, this is the most important one to be a great team player. Be confident, but drop the ego. Humble team members are quick to give credit to others. It's not about thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking of yourself less. Yeah. So that's the first one, humble. And we will see next is that if a team member is not humble enough or doesn't show humility, what kind of situation we may get into, or what can we do to remediate from that. But let's now look into the next one. What does Pat means by saying hungry? So when he says any team member has to be hungry, the way he puts it is that being hungry means that you always seek more, do more, learn more, or take on more responsibility. Hungry people are self-motivated to work hard, take initiative, and go beyond their call of duty. Always look for more to do and learn. Hungry members inspire others to be hungry too. It's not driven solely by personal ambition, but thinking about the future and bringing your fullest and best effort to it. So it doesn't mean you work over the weekend or outside of office hour and so on. No, it's more about taking more responsibility and being ready to go extra mile. So you are asked something and you want to see more. A design has been given and you can say, maybe you can do even better than this design. That hunger is what makes you a very good team player. Yeah. Smart, the third one. So smart is a very ambiguous term, right? So here, what Patrick means is actually people smart. Here, smart means having common sense about people, being aware of and perceptive about other people, asking good questions, listening well, and knowing how to respond effectively. Humble people, smart people are able to work effectively with all kinds of people. It's not about being intellectually smart. It's not IQ, but knowing what to say to others and how it impacts them. You can think of it kind of emotional intelligence, kind of self-awareness, kind of common sense, but it's not intellectual smartness that Pat is talking about here. So use good judgment and common sense when interacting with others. That's how being smart helps you to succeed as a team player. Now, what happens if your team members are neither humble nor hungry or not smart? None of these three. These are three virtues of an ideal team player, right? Humble, hungry, smart. So the first thing is you should not be finding too many people like this in the first place. They must have come through an interview or something. So if someone was not humble, not hungry, or not smart, they would have got filtered out in the interview at multiple layers of the interview. But let's say in a very exceptional case, you have someone like this in the team. Fire them. That's the solution. Move them out. Because they have neither of these, you can train them if someone doesn't have two of those or one of those. But if they don't have all of those, it may not be the right investment of your time or your company's time. The right idea often is just fire them, move them out of the company. They are going to harm the team more than what help, any kind of help they can do, despite their any technical skill that you can think of. But the good thing is you'll never see, almost never see anyone like this who is weak in all three of those. humble, hungry, and smart. The more likely scenario is that someone is strong in one of these three areas, but weak on the other two areas, or strong in two of these three virtues, but weak in another one. Then as a manager or as a leader, you can actually coach them, improve them. There are a lot of ways you can do, so bring them up to speed to above a certain average level on that weakness and so on. So let's say the team member you are concerned with is only humble, but neither hungry nor smart. Patrick calls them the pawn. If the team member is only hungry but neither humble nor smart, he calls them the bulldozer. And if the team member is only smart but neither humble nor hungry, he calls them the charmer. So let's take a look at these three particular scenarios where the team member you're working with has only one of the three virtues of ideal team player. But now let's look at a scenario where the direct report you're handling, your direct report, he is humble only, but he is neither hungry nor smart. Patrick Lencioni calls them the pawn. I have seen some other people calling them doormat also. But the idea is this, is that pawns are nice, unassuming people who don't have much drive to accomplish things and lack the social smartness to build effective relationships with others on the team. Because they are nice and get along, pawns tend to get tolerated by teams for a good period of time. So they are just humble. Basically, people are okay with them being in the team because they are not into conflict. They look to be nice guy, but they don't contribute much in your project or the team. So as a manager, your job is to actually coach them on the other areas. Can you make them, train them to become more aware, self-aware, being smart? And can you increase their hunger a little bit and so on? That is humble only the pawn. The next is hungry only, the bulldozer. So these people are neither humble nor smart, but they are hungry. They are ready to put a lot of work, hard work, and they will try to go extra mile. But they have great drive and can push the team forward, but they tend to break a lot of relationships along the way because they don't care much about other people's feelings, because they're not smart or they're not people smart. So they are also self-centered and want to take advantage of their team for their own purposes because they are not humble. So again, if you have someone like them, your manager, as a manager, you are supposed to help them grow on the side of humility and people smartness. And what if the team member is smart only, but they are neither humble nor hungry? Patrick calls them the charmer. Charmers like to put on a good show for the team, but don't contribute much. They like to tell people how good they are, but don't really care for the team's success. Unfortunately, their entertaining style will keep them on the team even longer than the pawns. Why? Because they're charmer. People like them. They're very smart. They can read the room, read how people will be responding or reacting to certain things and plan their moves accordingly. But again, because they are not hungry, they don't move the team much, and they are not humble either. So again, as a manager, your job is to help them out. Now let's revisit the case, which will be a pretty common case as you work with your team, is that your team member will have two of the three virtues of an ideal team player. And this is a good position to be in, to tell you frankly, because you can now coach your direct report or the team member, help them to grow in that one area where they have some weakness. So end of the day, all team members will have some strength and some weakness. So that's nothing to be concerned. It's just being aware of where you can help the team members, or as a manager, where you can help your direct report. But let's look into these three scenarios where your direct report has two of the three virtues. First is if they are humble and hungry, but not smart. Patrick calls them the accidental messmaker. They mean well and don't want any credit, but lack the people skills to communicate effectively with other team members because they are not smart, right? People smart. So their words and actions can often lead to frustration with other team members. But they do contribute and are respected by others because they have the work ethic to move the team forward, because they're humble and because they're hardworking, that is, they're hungry, right? So they are the accidental messmaker. And these are good people to have in the team. You just have to grow them in their people awareness side, people smartness side, so that they don't mess up accidentally too much, right? That's why Pat calls them the accidental messmakers, as they occasionally do the mess. The second type of people are those who are humble and smart, but not hungry. Pat calls them the lovable slacker. They have the humility and people skills to get on well with other team members, but lack the drive to contribute to the team's goals. They often have other interests outside the team that are more important to them. Their friendly disposition often makes it hard for leaders to confront them on their lack of drive. So they actually just lack drive, but they're humble people, and they are smart people. It's just that work is maybe a lower priority to them. They have other things to do in life and all those things. And personally, what I have found from my experience is that this is the hardest kind of people to change, like making them someone who's not hungry, making them hungry is not an easy treat. As a leader or as a coach or as a manager, you'll find it a little bit harder to change than the other ones. But anyway, you are responsible to grow your direct reports, right? So it's your responsibility. You'll have to find out how you can at least minimize the effect or improve them to a level that's actually is not below the minimum threshold that's needed to be a good team player, right? And the third kind of people who have two of the three virtues are those who are hungry and smart, but not humble. Pat calls them the skillful politician. They are the most dangerous people to have on a team because they are good at manipulating people to achieve their own objectives. They are hardworking. That's why they are hungry, right? They're hardworking, but like to bask in the glory of what they have accomplished. Skillful politicians need to be identified, called out, and corrected or moved off the team as soon as possible. Because as I was telling you, humility or being humble is actually the most important trait of the team. But to many of us, if you look, you'll see people are giving the most importance to people who are hungry, like hardworking. Oh, I need these people, and this type of a skillful politician, they are hungry. And because they are also people smart, they tend to be surviving in the team for a long time, and it's not very easy to replace these people because they might be outmaneuvering your thinking. So definitely you can grow them in the side of humility, but make sure that if it doesn't happen, they don't grow, and you see signs of manipulation by them to the team, you take proper action to them because they can be harming the team. A lot of people may be actually leaving the team for this type of people. Right. So this is something you need to be aware of. So one of the application of this idea of ideal team player is actually when you want to hire. And when you are trying to interview, then you try to understand it. Of course, you can use it for retention also. Like, these are the people who are good on these three or on those two. I need to retain them in this team. Or when you are restructuring team, reorging, moving people or engineers from one team to another, then you can figure out who should be a good fit in what team. Like, let's say team lacks hunger, but you have another team where there are too many hungry people. So maybe move some hungry engineers from there to the other team to make a balance. That's another way you can use this model. So I thought this book resonates very well with the idea of a team player. There are definitely maybe other books or literature you will find out, or there may be other attributes you'll find out that you want to see in an ideal team player. But at a high level, or roughly from a grouping point of view, I believe that these three can represent most of the attributes that you can come up with in one way or other. But I'm curious to know if you don't think so. Can you think of something that you want to see in an ideal team player? And we cannot categorize them in either of these three categories of humble, hungry, and smart. Then please let me know. I'll be glad if you add YouTube comments where you can put your thoughts and we can discuss more. Maybe I can come up with future videos to answer your questions. Also, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to this channel so that when I create the new sessions, you get automatically notified. Yeah. Thank you. I enjoyed this session with you, and I'm looking forward to more time with you together. Thank you.